Thanks, guys. I'm honored that I get to be a return guest. And we're just saying that it was 4 years ago that we did this. And
I could have sworn it was like a year or two, but that's...
I said that you guys only look 5 years older, and I'm pleased that the podcast is taking on continued success.
I was just thrilled when we reached out to Jake to do the show. He didn't say, "You guys are still doing that?"
I didn't say, "Wait, what? You're still doing that?"
Welcome to Wait, What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGee, the podcast that takes an often irreverent, sometimes cynical, and yes, on occasion, a serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, 𝘙𝘕𝘏.
And I'm Tim McGee.
The flame has been extinguished, bringing to a close what I believe was a rather spectacular Winter Olympic Games from Northern Italy. We may have something special happening in NASCAR as 𝘔𝘂𝗹𝗹 and Tyler Reddick have gone back-to-back, and, well, I got to tell you, I'm pretty annoyed about the whole Bear Stadium situation right now. But you're up first, Tim. What's on your mind? And I guess I should say, I trust you've dug out of this nor'easter that we had over the weekend.
It was not fun, I'll tell you that much. But yes, we are dug out. So I don't know what I'm more excited about, the success of Team USA in the Olympics, or the fact that last week's guest, Doug Logan, referred to us as raconteurs.
That guy just has a clever way of saying everything.
We have been called a lot of things, both on to our face and behind our backs, but I do not believe we've ever been called raconteurs. And I'm still riding the high of that interview. I just thought he was, what a gentleman. When I refer to it in our LinkedIn post, he is the world's most interesting man.
Yeah, I mean, we anticipate every episode is going to be our greatest yet, and I have hopes for this one. But I have to say, I mean, I feel like anytime I go back and look, it's like the post we had on LinkedIn today, is you find something else and I want to talk about it. Like we let the whole Tommy Lasorda thing almost go like that was just an average story he was telling.
Right.
For those of you that didn't listen to it, he was working for his grandfather in Cuba, and the team that his grandfather owned had a pitcher that had a funny nickname. And that pitcher happened to be Tommy Lasorda, and he just said it as matter-of-factly as you could imagine. Anyway, I agree with you. It was an absolutely fascinating conversation. And for anyone that hasn't heard it yet, I hope you'll go back and take a listen.
But I do think we need to talk about the historic success of Team USA. More medals, more gold medals than any Team USA in Winter Olympic histories, beaten only by the Norwegians. Mary Carrillo had a nice, I don't know if you saw it, a nice piece on sports in Norway, and how they started at a very young age participating, and it's all about fun and family, and it's only when they get older that they start to pick off those kids who they believe have potential and give them the training to, potentially become a world-class elite athlete. What struck me was that something like 70% of kids in America drop out of sports at the age of around 13, which is when puberty hits and you go to middle school. Maybe you discover somebody of the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of things that go on that might lead to that number. But as somebody who was involved in youth sports for nearly a quarter century here in America, I do think that there is a couple of things that work against us here in America. One is the for-profit nature of a lot of our youth sports. They pick out kids at an early age, tell their parents how great little Johnny or Janie is, and get them involved in for-profit sports, whether it's basketball, lacrosse, hockey, whatever it happens to be. And those kids then leave behind their teammates who may be less talented. And then you have mediocrity of the kids who are left, and they may not want to continue to play. So anyway, but I thought that was interesting, and kudos to Norway for apparently having, for a country of only a few million people, for having such enormous success in the games. It was fantastic.
I met some wonderful people from Norway, by the way. This is their games, right? The sports where they are particularly strong in obviously favor this, and I think from a U.S. standpoint, we have to dig a little deeper. I mean, when we had 𝘔𝘰𝘮𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘕 on, what that governing body, what USA Luge has to do to identify sliders and bring them into the sport is not exactly the easiest thing in the world. It's not like finding basketball players or football players or baseball players for that matter, or track and field athletes even. So huge respect to all the national governing bodies in the winter sports that have to identify players. Now, the two hockey gold medals by the women and the men, I mean, what that is going to do, like big time stuff for USA Hockey, and congratulations to USA Hockey and to the NHL for getting the players back in, because it just shows, coming off of the Four Nations Challenge or Four Nations Face Off that we talked about on a show last year. I mean, it was just, that was such a thrilling product by the NHL, and then to come back and have these players in and playing in the Olympics and what we saw. And then obviously before that, 2 days before that, the U.S. women beating Canada in overtime it just absolutely was remarkable. Now, on the women's side, the women have fared a little better than the men over time. They both have won 3 golds, but the women didn't start playing in the Winter Games until late 1990s.
Yeah, there's not as much disparity between the men's and women's programs in hockey as there is, say, in U.S. soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, the women have comported themselves incredibly well on the international stage since they've, even going back to their involvement in the Olympics. But the quality of play on both sides, both the men's and the women's, was just unbelievable. And do I get credit for my prediction when I said I was looking forward to U.S.-Canada gold medal matches on both sides when neither team had qualified for the gold medal match at that point?
It's like a Kreskin credit. Because it was the weirdest thing. I went back and I've listened to that a couple of times, and it's like, and I'm like, wait, what is he talking about? And you said, and then you just had a classic, like, I'm just looking forward to a Canada-US final in both the men's and women's, and we got it. And the games were spectacular. I was actually in a car, but fortunately I wasn't driving, so I was able to watch every second of the men's. I didn't watch as much as the women's, unfortunately. But caught obviously the highlights. It was magical. And listen, I will say this, and I don't know how much we need to talk about it, but this was a moment, and everybody is hearkening back, as it was to the day when the miracle on ice happened. I think it was that game, not the gold medal game. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Correct.
So the semis game against the Soviets that led to the gold medal game, and it had all the makings of that type of moment, I think, as a fan of U.S. sports. And it got a lot co-opted. And I just hate it. I just hate it because I think we just want to go back to loving sports for that part of the tribalism that it is, that is actually unifying. And it's just like everything's just ripping us apart now, even the things that used to just be so simply tying us together. And I'm frustrated about that. I don't necessarily even want to go into any of the specifics, but I did feel I needed to say that.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. You can love this country and not love everything this country does or stands for. They are not mutually exclusive. And there are people out there who try to make it some sort of litmus test for patriotism. Whether it's Elaine Gu, is that her first name? The Chinese-American athlete who decided to compete for China. Why can't we celebrate her success? Regardless, I know she's half Chinese. She's half, her mother was born in China, father was born in the United States. Her grandmother, for whom she made the decision to compete for China, recently passed away. Why can't we just celebrate her amazing performance, regardless of who she won medals for? Right? Not everything has to be this jingoistic zero-sum game of my country versus your country. That's what really, that goes completely antithetical to the Olympic spirit.
I agree. It's interesting because I have a good friend, Wake Forest friend, who used to be the former COO at the CDC, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some things to say about that, but I won't get into it now. And he was over there with his wife, and he's a sports fan, but he doesn't follow any of these sports all that closely. And I asked him, I said, just give me a sense, because I think it's important to understand how the Olympics are in relation to other sports, right? Because we get very tribal about sports, and it's fine to be tribal during the Olympics and USA chants. I get it. But the Olympics always have been something different. And by the way, the numbers that we're seeing have been very, very positive about these games. So these games delivered something very special, I think. But I asked him, what was it like on the ground, like getting into these sports that you hadn't seen? And he just said the positive things he was sharing about just what the experience was like and the way you get into sports. And he said he was watching Italian television, and since he was over there watching, he just started cheering for the Italian team, which I think was third in the medal count or fourth in the medal count overall.
Yeah.
And he said that's just because of the Olympic spirit, and the people were great over there. So, you know, we've talked to a number of past guests about Olympics, people that have worked directly in it. Michael Payne, Terrence Burns, Doug Logan had some thoughts on that experience as well. And it's not always great, but there is always this love of the ideal of the Olympics. And I think what my friend fed back to me was kind of just that. And I will add this. Sure, there are a few detractors. I don't know how anyone can say that Kirsty Coventry didn't hit it out of the park in this first go-around and the way she's handled everything.
I would agree with you. I'm sure there are some naysayers out there. I have not heard them, but that's just the world we live in. But I agree. She faced some controversy with the Ukrainian slider. I thought she struck the exact right tone in her closing remarks during the closing ceremonies. I think she did a phenomenal job. And and now she gets to take a breath, right? I just read we are 872 days away from the opening ceremonies of LA. So probably at day 869, she'll get back in the saddle and start working on that. And that, you know, you and I have been, you know, seen many Olympic Games, both as young kids, as fans, and more recently as we work in the sports business. Every Olympiad seems to come fraught with, well, this could go wrong, or this is going to go wrong, and, you know, what's going to happen, and whether it's the water in Rio or security and safety in London or whatever it happens to be. And yet the IOC, with the notable exception of 1972, has put on, you know, fantastic games going back to Pierre de Coubertin in 1896 and the birth of the modern Olympics.
Yeah, and hopefully the bar for the organizing committees continues to rise as well, because that's a huge challenge that they have. And interestingly about Kirsty Coventry is in her interview that she did on NBC with Mike Tirico, she was asked all the hard questions, and she handled them very, very well. One of them was about LA, because there's going to be a huge expectation for LA, because they've done the games before very, very successfully. But there's this bit of a cloud with Casey Wasserman as the head of LA28 right now over that. She was asked directly about it. She said, it doesn't affect us right now. We are keeping an eye on it, which is the smart answer, of course. There is going to be growing, I think, voices saying we need to replace him, although the board has voted to keep him in place. The CEO has said that he is supporting Casey remaining at the helm of LA28. So that may be one, even though he's selling his agency, Wasserman Media Group, he is firmly saying he plans to stay here. But I do expect that we'll hear some more voices. You've heard, you know, people start floating Bob Iger's name as a possible replacement. And I don't want to get ahead of that, because I think Casey's going to dig in with LA28 because of all he did to help bring him there. But I don't think the voices are going to stop anytime soon.
No, and I think it's something we'll have to keep a close watch on. I don't want to make a prediction whether he survives this or not. But, you know, it's one of those things where typically when you get beyond a crisis, it tends to tamper down, right? And it goes back to business as usual. But in this case, as we get closer to the games, there's going to be more scrutiny put on him, more focus put on him and what he's doing there. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen.
Yeah. I do want to add that I think the overall broadcast talent at the games were great, but I got to say it. We've said it before. Kenny Albert is so talented. His calls were great, and I think Eddie Olczyk, who seemed to get a bad rap for a while, I don't know why. I think he's fantastic, and Brian Boucher on the side. I mean, it was just a great broadcast.
And don't forget Catherine Tappan.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it was just all great. It's just a joy listening to great broadcast talent, you know, that especially that sport.
Is Kenny Albert better than his father and his uncles?
I mean, Marv was legend, of course.
Listen, when Kenny has, 50 years of experience, then maybe we can make a more informed opinion on that. But he is great.
One of the reasons I like to sing Kenny's praises is because I think in some regards he's understated and not as appreciated as the versatile multi-sport talent that he is. And there's very few people that can do it. And hockey, throwing hockey into the mix to me is just the hard. I mean,
Hockey's got to be by far the hardest game to call.
Like, given that we have proven ourselves based on last week's episode, the curling experts that we are, I'm thinking you and I could call that sport. Actually, no, because as much as we pretended to know the rules, I don't think we really do. At least not yet. Maybe you do.
I think we should be over in the French Alps in 4 years calling that. It's you and I could call bowling, because if you've ever thought about it, well, bowling commentators have the easiest job in the world. What do you think he's going to do here? I think he's going to try to knock all the pins down.
And if he doesn't, he's going to try to get them on a second shot.
We missed.
Yeah, Chris Schenkel. He made a career out of that.
Yeah. You want to talk ratings for a minute before?
Sure.
Let's make this.
All right.
We're raconteurs. We can talk about whatever we want to.
Yes, exactly.
24.6 million people watched the men's gold medal game. So kudos to that. The overall Olympics were up 95% and averaged 23.5 million viewers across linear, cable, and streaming.
Wow.
Yeah.
You couldn't miss it, obviously. And I think it goes back to just the overall feel. I thought the dual markets, if you will, I thought just handled everything wonderfully. NBC was on top of this. Tirico is an absolute pro. And it just delivered the new production that we've talked about. I thought brought some excitement to it. Just some great competitions. And then that closing ceremony was just so beautiful. And you're right. I thought Coventry's closing remarks were extremely strong. I just love the venue and the way they said it. And obviously Italy kind of showing off its artistic flair in a way that hopefully the athletes really appreciated, because I thought it was just incredible overall.
Yeah. I mean, you typically don't get, all of the athletes at the closing Olympics like you do it, or closing ceremonies like you do at the opening. And one of the things that I enjoy most about the Olympic Games is you march in as countries and you march out as friends.
Yeah.
Right. So you see, Norwegians with Italians, with Uzbekistan, standing. I don't know how you would say people from Uzbeks, maybe. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying.
The fact that you went to that country, that's a gutsy,
without a
call.
Well, I'm on a tightrope here without a net.
Okay. Before we welcome our guest, and we're very excited about and the timeliness of the guests we have this week, I just, part of why I want to bring this up is I feel like I need to stem the crazy talk about the Bears and the stadium deal. We've talked about this on the show because the Bears had this great run, and what would that mean in terms of the Bears having more pressure on the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago, but mostly the state of Illinois. And then subsequent to the Super Bowl, or following the Super Bowl, news came out that the state of Indiana, particularly for Hammond, had put an offer together or had gotten, funding approved to the tune that would make a stadium build there a little more viable, because the state of Illinois has not just bent over yet for the Bears, because times are tough and a lot of residents don't like, forking over tax benefits to, already very wealthy people, because that's an ongoing pressure thing that states have to deal with. I started getting texts from people like, are you sad? Can you believe it? Is it going to be okay to have the Hammond Bears or whatever? I don't think they're going to Indiana. I think they're going to end up in Arlington Heights. Not as I'd like to see them stay in downtown, but they have this land in Arlington Heights. They're going to get closer. My bet is, I could be wrong, is that they're going to end up. So, as I've said before, the song can remain the same about being the pride and joy of Illinois. Now, they'll be outside of the city of Chicago, which kind of sucks, but it's not like the Jets or the Giants play in New York City either, or and Kansas City is now outside of the city of Kansas City and in the state of Kansas. There's plenty of, the Rams and Chargers do not play in Los Angeles.
Right. It appears to me that Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, has changed his tune since the Bears announced they were looking in Indiana. So if it is a negotiating ploy by Kevin Warren and the organization, then kudos to them, because they've gotten the governor, who has been very vocal in saying there was no money to support a stadium, starting to change his tune a little bit.
Well, it may be, but the story is, or what's being reported is that the McCaskeys and Kevin Warren are not particularly on the same page.
Or the McCaskeys want to stay in Chicago?
No, they approved a $200 million purchase of land in Arlington Heights. So I think so the whole thing's, as a Bears fan, is a bit of a mess. So we're going to leave it at that, and we're going to welcome in a guest. We will be right back.
It's time for our guest.
We are back, and I don't know what I'm more excited about. To welcome a guest back for the second time. This will be the second time we've invited back a guest for the second time, or the fact that we have the only undefeated team president in the Cup Series in NASCAR right now. Steve 𝘕𝘓𝘃 started his career in motorsports almost 25 years ago as president of 𝘚𝘵𝗵𝗏𝗱 Racing. For the last 5 years, he's been president of 2311 Racing. They have an owner you may have heard of at some point, Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, another famous owner of the team. But the team has gotten off to a fantastic start. They are 1-2 in points in the Cup right now, and Tyler Reddick in particular has won the first 2 races of the season. So, Jay, congratulations and welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys. I'm honored that I get to be a return guest. And we were just saying that it was 4 years ago that we did this. And
I could have sworn it was like a year or two, but that's...
And I said that you guys only look 5 years older, and I'm pleased that the podcast is taking on continued success.
I was just thrilled when we reached out to Jake to do the show. He didn't say, "You guys are still doing that?"
I didn't say, "Wait, what? You're still doing that?"
So I alluded to it in my introduction. The season's gotten off to a start that maybe you imagined, but are still probably a little bit surprised has gone as well as it has over the first two races. Take us inside the shop. What's the energy like? What's the mojo like within the shop at 2311 Racing right now?
Yeah, obviously it's as good as it can be. We just had a victory lunch for the Daytona 500, which also became a lunch around the Atlanta win because we scheduled it a few weeks back, and now we have 2 victories. And I jokingly told everybody, since we won Daytona, all I feel like we've done as a team is eat and drink and carry on with group activities, which is not a bad thing. But we try to celebrate these. They are so hard to come by, and to be lucky enough to get our Super Bowl with Daytona and then follow it up with an amazing win with not even a full car, with the front fender missing in Atlanta. It's just everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. You guys have reported on it. There was a lot going on for this team last year. And so to put all that behind us and to come start the season the way we have, there are no better vibes happening in the sports business than are happening at 2311. I could tell you that.
Ostensibly, Michael has been a lot more visible. He was obviously there at Daytona, and he was there at Atlanta celebrating with everybody. At least compared to what we've seen in the past. He's getting interviewed regularly, and he's just, knocking them all out of the park, it seems to us. What is that doing for the team? How is that energizing the team?
Well, it's not new for us, right? He's been very visible, supportive, part of this team from the inception when Denny brought him the idea in 2020 to start what became 2311. So, him and Denny are the heartbeat of this team. They set the foundation. They set the path of what they expect and what we're trying to do. But for us to be able to, as a group, deliver Michael Jordan the joy that we bring him on a weekly basis, especially the last 2 weeks when he is so genuinely in love with NASCAR and has been since he was a kid, but now fulfills that competitive juices moment for him by you see him hugging Tyler and everybody in victory lane, high fives all around, the text messages that we get from him. It's an honor for us to be able to do that, and everybody here takes tremendous pride in the fact that we get to to bring the GOAT as much pleasure from owning this race team as we possibly can.
Want to touch upon something that I think we have to talk about, which is the recently settled lawsuit with NASCAR. You and I, we traded texts, and there was many things that you couldn't say during that, and I'm sure there are still some things you can't say, but it appears from the outside as if you guys are moving forward, getting along with the powers that be within NASCAR. Can you talk at all about what the relationship is now with the sanctioning body, NASCAR?
Yeah, it's very, very productive. And in all honesty, it was very productive last year. I'm really proud of the fact that from the day-to-day competition group here in NASCAR, the day-to-day business group here in NASCAR, we always looked at each other all through last year and said, it is business as usual. We know that this lawsuit is going on and there's, things that are going to happen as it progresses, but we have to manage our business. They have to manage their business. We still have to try to grow the sport together. So I don't think it changed during last year, but obviously after the settlement, we all sort of came together and said, now it's really time to put it all behind us, lock arms and grow the sport. And that was a conversation that we had with Denny and Michael too. Like we said from the beginning, the reason we were doing this was to make NASCAR as a sport better for the fans, better as a business, more popular. And now we have to live up to our part of that. 23XI's part of that is being a major player in driving what that's going to look like. And we have done that for the first 2 weeks of the season. We were in San Diego the weekend of the Daytona 500 with us, Jordan Brand and Toyota. We sponsored the San Diego State University men's basketball game on Saturday night before the Daytona 500, had a show car in front of the arena, had our drivers doing their chant, gave out rally towels to start building excitement for the race, but also selfishly to have people in San Diego want to cheer for us when we come back in June. And then we did a watch party at the biggest sports bar on Coronado Island where we're going to race around, for 150 guests. And we went and won the race. So I'm hoping that those people are turning into 23XI fans and NASCAR fans, and they're going to follow this journey of this team. So those are the things that we're doing. And we did it with NASCAR. We did it with their team in San Diego. And we'll come up with more and more ideas like that to help grow the sport.
I think you hit San Diego probably pretty good timing from a East Coast weather situation. So nice move on that. With that drama behind you, and as Tim pointed out in the introduction, you've been around this sport for a long time, but there really does seem to be an overall positive vibe going on in the sport. And I'm not even talking about the relationship right now between you and the sanctioning body. The Daytona numbers were unbelievable, very, very impressive. So it seems like there's some good energy going on. As someone that's been in the sport for a while, how would you characterize that? I know that you're bullish because you're a team president, but anything else that you can share about just how you feel about the state of the sport?
I think you start with the competition, and it certainly plays out in these first two races that we were lucky to win. The cars and these teams are so good at what they do. It's so hard to win. That differentiates us from several other forms of motorsports where there's not as many teams and drivers that have had the opportunity to win. And so I think NASCAR's ability to control how the product comes to life on the field of play, for lack of a better term, puts the sport in a really positive momentum opportunity. And then you bring in the personalities of these drivers, the new sort of brand positioning of NASCAR, getting back to their roots, the chase is back, this kind of hell yeah attitude of having a party and friends and family getting together and enjoying a race, whether you're at home or at a bar watching on TV or at the track itself. There's no other sport that gives you the access that we can. And I think, we have to continue to build on that, make it a place that people want to go and be seen. And, we had Puka Nakua with us at Daytona. Marshawn Lynch was in Daytona. Those are the things that we have been on the forefront of doing, is introducing the sport through the lens of this team and how Michael built his passion so that more casual sports fans also want to see what we're doing and what this sport's all about. And once they come, they get hooked, and we just got to keep building on that as an industry.
I noticed, Steve, as I'm going through the questions that David developed for us, that he's getting to ask all the good ones about how great the sport's doing, and I get to ask all the ones about the lawsuit and the tough stuff that you went through.
That's why I asked, did you want to do the introduction?
Hey, but Tim, I have yet to say that's a good question. So you're still in the game.
You see, they're on to us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, because I'm tired of eating crow.
Damn it.
But in all seriousness, some things came out during discovery in the trial, specifically that Steve Phelps was quoted as having said or written. Did NASCAR have any other choice other than to part ways with him and get a fresh start coming out of the lawsuit? Any thoughts on that you care to share?
Look, I mean, I'm a big fan of Steve's. I've known him forever, and I was definitely sad to see that happen. I feel like the sport was better with him involved in it. I believe that it's really a question for NASCAR. I think most people were expecting some sort of indication that things were going to be different, whether that was what happened with Steve Phelps or some other moves. I think there was a lot of debate and conversation about what that could look like, but they chose to make some personnel moves, and I think they'll continue to make other sorts of changes coming out of things that might have been learned during that time frame. They're not the only one. Like, we all will continue to look in the mirror and make sure that we've got the right approach to things that come our way, both on and off the racetrack. So again, it's unfortunate, but I feel like 2025 is in the rear view for all of us, and we really just got to focus on what the future holds and build back all the momentum that we can and build back the confidence in our core fan base, that the sport and the teams and the drivers have their best interests at heart, because without them, we don't have anything. And I love the way that our fans show their love for this sport, and we want to be right in the middle of that.
That's a pro's answer right there, Tim.
Oh.
That's a pro.
I think he's taken media training from his boss, MJ. He handled that one like a goat himself.
We talked about last week. I mean, like Michael has just been on point. I mean, he's been great.
I think I said, Steve, that he's probably been interviewed over the course of his career more than every other NASCAR team owner combined.
Yep. Yeah, I think I did remember you saying that. And,
he listens.
What's that?
You listen.
Yeah. He speaks from the heart. Again, the love of this sport. I've met very few people that love NASCAR more than Michael Jordan. And it's just so refreshing to be around. So when he says the things that he does about what he wants this sport to be, what he wants 2311 to be, what he wants fans to get out of it, he is 100% talking from his heart.
Yeah. We've kind of touched on this a little bit. Again, a lot of positive things going on with the sport and certainly with 2311, but the sport is a grind. I mean, it's as grindy as anything, any business, and certainly any sport business. What keeps you up at night? What are the things that you have to stay focused on, particularly now as you guys have this, very, very strong start?
Well, I often say, most of the people that work at 2311 and most of the people in the sport are thinking week to week, right? It was Daytona, then what are we doing in Atlanta? Now what are we doing in Austin, and then Phoenix, and then Vegas. So it's this week to week mentality because it is such a grind. If I'm not pushing my leadership team and then obviously myself to be looking way farther out in advance, we will get trampled over. So I'm the one that is trying to think of, what are we doing at the end of next year and 5 years from now? We are starting our 6th season. We're racing against teams that have been doing it. Our friends at Joe Gibbs Racing are celebrating 35 years this year. Hendrick 2 years ago celebrated 40 years. I was around Penske when I was at Miller when they started their NASCAR team. That was 35 plus years ago. And we're in our 6th year. So what are we going to do to keep this momentum going? Because our first 5 years went by like a snap of the fingers. So that's what I really need to be focus on. If I'm going to think of anything that might keep me up at night, it's not what we're going to do in Austin this weekend, or 5 weeks from now, or what happens when the chase starts in later this fall. It's what are we doing 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now.
Before we let you go and prepare more for this weekend at COTA, we have a question that should be familiar to you. One last one. What's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody looking to break into the sports industry today?
I always go back to building expertise. Like, build something that you're really, really good at. Don't worry about what sport you're working in or what what you really want to do today. Think farther down the road. Become really good at some talent of some sort, and then you'll be a desirable solution for somebody in this business that they'll want to be affiliated with you. I think too many people focus on the what they're doing instead of the how they're doing it. And I really think the more you get good at that how, and the expertise that you want to bring to an organization, the more desirable you're going to be for somebody to want to take a shot and offer you a job and help them grow whatever their team, agency, brand is.
That's great. And just so you know, I went back and listened to the one that you gave back some years ago. This one was better. It's a better answer. Just going to say.
Wait, what?
Just going to say it. Just going to be honest. It was pretty good last. It was pretty good the first time too.
Paro, I swear to God, I thought you were going to say that's the same thing you said, and I was like,
No,
I haven't grown at all over 4 years.
I was wondering if I should say, listen, I'm going to give you a chance. You can do a different one. I can tell you what you said, but I'm like, we'll see what he says. I mean, it touched on some similar themes, but
that's
they're
nice
both very, very good.
I appreciate it.
By the way, I checked it out. Tyler finished third last year at COTA. Finished ahead of SVG too, by the way.
He won in 2023, his first year with us.
I mean, because I got to think the prediction markets are pretty much all in on SVG winning at COTA.
Well,
right?
I know who you're betting on.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's like I said, it's super hard to win these things. So when you get a chance to do it, it's easy to just move on to thinking about the next race, and we've got to stop and make sure everybody enjoys it and takes advantage of at least a few hours of reflection on how hard it is to do.
Has any driver won the first 3 races of the season on the Cup side? Well, good luck to that.
No,
good luck.
They have not. Thanks for pointing that out.
I wrote to him the other day and I said, has anyone ever won every race?
No, the king came pretty close.
Well, I can tell you
he won 10.
There's only one team and driver that had the chance to do that, so I'm kind of happy it's us.
No, good luck. It's a very different setup, obviously, than Atlanta and Daytona, but to your point, he won there and did very well last year. So good luck. Will you be going down? And more importantly, or equally importantly, will Michael be going down here?
What's that?
Will Michael be going down?
I don't know. Don't know his schedule yet, but I know it's not Pocono, Tim, but you're more than welcome to come to Austin.
Well, we'll have to get to a race, and no, it won't be Pocono, but we'll come to a race.
I've heard that.
You tell us where you don't have a big sponsor presence, where you can show us around the garage.
He said any place, anytime.
There's no sponsor bigger than the host of. Wait, what? You guys, you get whatever you want.
He said anytime, any place, and that's when you said Dover or Pocono.
That's right.
And that's why we.
That's right.
That's why we don't let you live it down.
I'm not making you go to Pocono. That's your desire. So
all right.
Come on.
All right. Well, David, you and I will have to pick a race take Steve up on it. Good luck. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming back. We're big fans, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Okay, we're back. Thank you again to Steve 𝘠𝘠, president of 2311 Racing. I was just saying on the break, it's great to have friends on as guests, right? We have great guests, but when you have somebody who's a great guest and a friend, it's just really nice. So now's the point in the show where we take a look forward to what we're thinking about, anticipating, expecting, looking forward to. We give shout outs. David, what's on your mind?
Well, I'll start right there. I mean, given the fact that 2311 has come out of the gate with 2 wins, and now they're going to this road course outside of Boston at COTA, I'm pretty excited to see. Now, and Jake just said, because you asked him, is Michael going? I think the prediction markets now are got to be fired up on whether Michael Jordan will appear. I think he's got to go, right? How do you not go?
I don't know if he's superstitious, a little stitious.
I think he's superstitious, right? He's the guy that wore his Carolina, shorts under his Bulls uniform for his entire career, supposedly.
Yeah, so he can't. I mean, there's one constant in the equation, right?
Yeah.
He's been at both wins, so
yeah.
But we should take Steve up on his. Yeah, we should take Steve up on his offer and go to a race. No, we don't have to go to Pocono.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this year, the Dover race is the All-Star race, so it's not a points race, but it is still going to be fun. So maybe we go down there.
Well, sticking on motorsports, and COTA also hosts, of course, a Formula One race in October, the U.S. Grand Prix. Drive to Survive, Season 8 debuts Friday on Netflix. I am excited to see that. Past guest Pierce Sanderson did such a great job of bringing us inside how that series is both created and the stories around it. So for anyone that hasn't seen that series, whether you're an F1 fan or not, I certainly would encourage anybody to take a watch, because it is something a little special and a little different. I also wanted to just touch on I think a big business story that's going to get more attention as we get closer to FIFA World Cup. You and I exchanged some notes on this previously, but it was announced last week that the New York, New Jersey host committee is not going to be doing the originally planned fan zone in Liberty Park in New Jersey, which would have been a gathering place for people not necessarily having tickets, and also people from around the world that are coming to attend games at MetLife, and they're not doing it there. They're going to add some events all around the 5 boroughs, I guess. But the story that I want to follow,
the whole state, the governor has come out and said we want to have fun activities from Patterson to Cape May. So I think they're putting a very positive spin on it.
That's my point. Is I think it is, and I think as we look at how did sponsorship go at not just New York, New Jersey, but across the board at the various organizing committees? Because when they were going out to market, as you and I have discussed, the packages were quite high, and I think they've been struggling. So I think the finances of this, as we get a little closer, are going to be interested to see, because these host committees have to do a lot of work in organizing these things. They definitely need money to come, but their packages are limited in what they can offer. So just a piece of the story that I think will get more attention on as we get closer.
Yeah, interestingly, the New York, New Jersey Organizing Committee has had as much, if not more, success securing sponsors than any other host city. But I do think it's a spin. Maybe they miscalculated when they announced that they were going to charge for admission, and they saw the ticket sales weren't going well. They could have pivoted then and said it was going to be free. I don't know. Maybe we can get somebody on from the organizing committee. Even if we do, I'm not sure if we would get a completely candid response to that question, but it is something to continue bear watching.
What about you? What do you have your eye on?
So a couple things. In what I think is brilliant counter programming, ESPN, which lost Sunday Night Baseball to NBC, is now saying that they're going to have a women's sports Sundays. So they'll focus on things like hockey and soccer, featuring women's leagues, which I think is great counter programming. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Another thing I'm looking forward to is I think you agreed with my prediction that the WNBA would not lose any games, but the league has come out today or yesterday and said that they need to have a deal in place by March 10th, which is 2 weeks from today as we record this. So it is getting down to the wire. As Adam Silver said, if these deals are done in the 11th hour, well, the clock's, the bell's ringing 11 times.
And I think their latest deal, which from the WNBA back to the Players Association, was a 15% of the basketball revenue to share, which is way off of where the players wanted to be, because it's really only coming up from 10% anyway. So, yeah, it looks like there may still be a gulf there to bridge.
And there was one proposal that the Players Association put out, which they were specific to say it wasn't their last and best offer, which I don't understand why you would tell people that. Why give the offer without some sense of urgency to it? The third thing that I'm watching is I saw that in 2025, 52% of sports programming was on SVOD, streaming video on demand. It's more than 50%. I think that's something that we have to continue to watch. I think that number is only going to continue to grow. I don't know what the ceiling is, right? I think that at some point, almost everything with the possible exception of Super Bowl and maybe Final Four might not be on maybe Masters, because I could imagine a scenario in which Augusta doesn't allow it to be streamed.
Yeah. I think with these NFL packages and to some degree baseball and basketball, you've gotten to a point where there is a model to where the money is big enough because the Amazons and the Netflixes of the world are in their bidding. But for a regular main package of a major sport, we haven't gone there, and I don't know if the money is there to continue to grow the pie as these leagues obviously want to do and that the owners want to do. But it's where, I mean, other than the private equity situation right now, which we will have to continue to talk to, I mean, that is where the big money and the expectation of these owners continuing to grow the valuations of their teams. So
we should do a whole episode on private equity, because if you listen to 𝘕𝘂𝗪𝘗 of CAA's comments at the National Sports Forum, he's very bullish on private equity. But then when you look at the private equity industry writ large, it's not doing very well right now.
Yeah, it was a very interesting comment by Howie. I understand his point, and there is money flowing in, and these sports-based funds at the existing private equity companies are just continuing to grow, and they're going out and starting new funds. KKR just bought Arctos, which was specifically a sports-based fund to improve what they do. George Pine with his Bruin Capital, I think, has done a great job of identifying a specific market. He's a little different than some of the others. We do have somebody that we're in talks with about that is going to be able to speak to that hopefully in the next month or so. So I'm excited about it.
One last thing I'm looking forward to, this, those of you who are listening can't see it, but this is my first pack of 2026 Topps Baseball. Came out earlier this month. We've got on the cover of the package Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge. So I'm looking forward to opening this pack as well.
You going to open it now?
Yeah, I'm going to open it now.
Okay.
All right, well,
I remember when we had, speaking of our first season, we had someone.
Play Larasham.
Yeah. Listen, and I'm going to make sure that we keep that sound effect in there right now, the opening of that pack.
Well, look at this, too, right out of the gate. Right,
that's Judge and Judge. There you go. You got two judges. Is this like a fixed pack? Like, did Topps send you this?
No,
because
we have Stars of MLB, which is an insert set that's found in every pack, and then we have Titans of the Game, and we've got him. But and then we've got Max Muncy, Greatest Hits. Let's see. We'll go through and see if we get a Marcelo Mayer of the Red Sox, future star. I'm just going through this quickly. We're looking for Castiglione. We're looking for Nick Kurtz, who just happened to.
There you go, baby.
Made the Topps rookie
big homage,
team.
Big Forest.
Yeah. Vinny Pasquantino. I have no idea who he is, but he's got a great name. Sounds like somebody I would have grown up with on Long Island. Fernando Tatis Jr. seems to be over his problems. Anybody else? We got a Cub for you. Owen Casey, rookie card.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's his rookie card. Austin Wells, Yankee catcher. Yeah.
Nice.
Not a bad pack.
Okay.
All right.
Good way to wrap.
Okay. So with that, we are going to say goodbye. We want to thank our guest one more time, Steve Luletta of 2311 Racing. Thank you, David. But most of all, thank you, listeners. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Like us, follow us, share us. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, but if you go to dpandmcgee.com, you can see all of our content is linked to there. So until next time, he's DP, I'm McGee, and we'll talk soon.